Welcome, everybody, to Bobbo's World Interviews podcast. Today we have our special guest. He writes for the WEEI in Boston online and does their social media. Thanks for joining us, Tom Carroll.
Thanks for having me, man. Excited to chat.
Hey, Ben.
I'm good. I'm good. It's a busy time of year.
Yeah.
Football is sort of my main gig for EEI. So with training camp being here, preseason, Boston College football having their training camp, they named a starting quarterback the other day. So a lot of stuff going on. Red Sox are right in the thick of it here for a wild card spot. So it's a very busy time for our station, and it's fun. This is really it would starting to be that really fun time of year.
Yeah, definitely. Did you grow up in Massachusetts?
I grew up in Rhode Island,
Oh,
so where
okay.
I'm at in Rhode Island is about 45 minutes from Boston, and Rhode Island is kind of a battleground state when it comes to sports. I'd say it's like 90% Boston sports, but you get
Hmm.
some of that New York in there. Just we're 3 hours from New York, and there's a lot of Italian people in Rhode Island, so they feel like there's like my grandfather rooted for Joe DiMaggio type of thing. So there's like some Yankee fans here, but it's it's basically an extension of Boston.
Right, right. Yeah. And how did you get into did you go to college for journalism and all that?
Yeah. So I went to Emerson in Boston for
Hmm.
journalism. I went there thinking I was going to be the next Bob Ryan. That's what I always wanted to do. Wrote for the high school newspaper. That was kind of my thing. And then I got to Emerson, and my sophomore year, my roommates asked me to fill in on a sports radio show. And 10 minutes into that show, I was like, oh, I want to do this the rest of my
Nice.
life. So ended up doing that show for 3 years. And it was one of those things I Wally pipped the guy, right? Like I filled in for a guy, and then I just was on the show in perpetuity after that. Um, and then, yeah, from there, had a bunch of internships in the business. I've worked a bunch of different places now, and um, it's cool. The gig that I have now, I get to work in the sports radio space, but for the first time in my career, I'm really able to flex those writing muscles for the first time. I had really just done talk content in podcasts and radio my entire first decade working in the business. And this recent gig that I started at WEEI last summer includes a lot of writing. So I'm writing for the website almost every day, managing their social media channels, and occasionally popping on shows as fill-in host, as a guest. So I love it. It's cool.
It's really cool. So
Yeah.
so you went from just filling in to going into internships and then WEI said, "Hey, let's go."
Yeah, I can kind of give you the path. So, when I was at Emerson, I interned at WEEI
Oh, okay.
my junior summer, like going into senior year. So it was the summer of 2013, which was a crazy summer. Red Sox obviously won the World
Mhm.
Series. Bruins lost in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. The Celtics traded Pierce and Garnett to the Nets. That whole Aaron Hernandez thing happened. The Pats signed Tim Tebow. So it was just like a crazy summer, and I'm actually wearing a Tim Tebow Mets spring training shirt right now. Um, so it was wild. So it was cool to kind of be ingratiated in the craziness of Boston sports, right in the thick of everything. And from there, got great experience. And I did a semester out in Los Angeles after that summer. My school has an LA internship program. So I interned at Fox Sports Radio on the national side, did that for a semester, worked on a bunch of national shows. And then I came back to Boston to finish my senior year, and I was lucky enough to score an internship in the Bruins front office working with their foundation. So inevitably that ended up being just like delivering mail to people and helping run raffles on game days and stuff. But it was cool to like be in the front office and kind of see how things work on that front, like operationally. It's not like I was sitting in on like trade proposals or anything like that, but it was cool to just like see how a team works behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
yeah.
So then when I graduated, I had these awesome internships, and I had my radio show at Emerson. WEEI was willing to hire me when I graduated. So they hired me as a overnight producer and fill-in producer, and my main gig was producing the Red Sox post-game show, and
Hmm.
then staying overnight to help the morning show get ready. Sort of help put together the morning show, if you will. So I would get in at like 10 o'clock and I'd leave at 6 or 7, depending on what the morning show would need. So it was definitely a grind. And then on the weekends, I would work at WTAG in Worcester, which is a smaller station. And I worked as an update anchor for Worcester Sharks hockey and Holy
Okay.
Cross athletics. So I was doing both of those jobs, working basically 7 days a week, and it was fun. I was making no money, but I loved what I was doing. I knew it was good experience, and then I was lucky enough that after doing those jobs for about a year simultaneously, the call from ESPN came in, which was amazing. So, got to work at ESPN Radio down in Bristol at the headquarters for 2.5 years. Worked as a production assistant. Got to work on all the different shows across the board in various roles. That's kind of how that job works for ESPN Radio. They kind of for X amount of time they'll have you do this, and then X amount of time they'll have you do this, and yada yada. Worked on a bunch of different play-by-play stuff, did a bunch of podcast stuff. I mean, you name it, I did it down there for 2.5 years. And then I had the opportunity to move back to Boston to work as the producer for the Celtics radio network over at 98.5 The Sports Hub. So, uh, jetted on back up to Boston. Was in Boston for a little over a year with the Celtics gig as sort of my main gig. And then I also got to fill in as the studio producer for Patriots a bunch of times, which was amazing. When there weren't games, I was working overnights, working weekends, filling in on shows. So again, it was sort of a night owl type of job. And I thought I was going to be at Sports Hub for, I don't know, the next decade of my career. But I had a friend who got a job at ESPN St. Louis as the morning show co-host, and they said they needed an executive producer, third voice on the show type of guy. She knew that I had on-air aspirations, so she said, hey, do you want to move to St. Louis and do this? And I was, I don't know, 26, 27 at the time, no wife, no kids, didn't have a mortgage, no pets, nothing. So I said, yeah, like, let's do it. So moved out to St. Louis and threw myself into the Cardinals and the Blues and Mizzou football, and definitely a steep learning curve when you don't grow up on those types of
Right.
teams, and then you need to fancy yourself an expert of sorts. Um, so it was a challenge, and I had to build up a Rolodex of guests around those teams, and um, it was a grind. The morning show, I was waking up at 3 a.m. every day and had to be in studio just around 4 o'clock to start getting stuff ready for the show. And I had a host in Bernie Miklas who was he had a very high standard, so you had to bring it every single day. You had to make sure you had great guests, and it was sort of a one man band doing all that. So that was fun in that I kind of got thrown into the fire and just had to figure it out on a day to day. And luckily I survived. Um, did that show for a little more, around 2 years. And then the pandemic happened. Everyone and their mother was getting laid off. I was one of them. And it became time for me to figure out what was next. And it was scary there for a second because the sports industry had been hurt by COVID immensely with ad revenue going way down. And I was lucky that I was able to find a job at Vegas Insider working as a co-host and producer of Morton Anderson's podcast Great Dane Nation. So helped launch that and did that show with him. I think we did 90 straight weeks. We had 43 Hall of Famers. We had Roger Goodell. We had Eli Manning. We had Michael Vick. We had Justin Tucker before he wasn't a good person to have on a podcast. We had all sorts of awesome guests, and Morton was the absolute best. And I still love the guy. He's like family to me at this point. So, so we did that show for about 2 years while I was at Vegas Insider. They ended up promoting me, so I ended up helping launch a bunch of other shows and co-host things and helped run their social media and hiring people and contracts and all that stuff. So a lot of good management experience there. And I was also able to do some really cool contract work with DraftKings and um, Action Network as well. So I was really like deep into the sports betting space, which was cool because that's sort of where everything is going. And um, again, it was another situation where I thought I'd be at Vegas Insider for quite a while. And a company out of Costa Rica reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, we love what you've built at Vegas Insider. Would you be interested in doing that for us?" And they were a startup. They owned a bunch of smaller sports betting brands. And I was kind of dubious, took a phone call, and I basically was like, I'm just going to throw a random number out there, big number. And if they accept it, I have to take it. Like I had just gotten married. I just bought a house, just got a dog. So I was like, I need the cash, and they accepted. So took the job, even though I wasn't really feeling too super confident about the company, but kind of made a shot in the dark decision.
Mhm.
And 3 weeks into me being into that job, the guy that hired me left, and then the guy that took over didn't believe in social media. He said something along the lines of, I don't know how social media builds a sports brand in 2023.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that probably means I need to look for a new job soon. And lo and behold, the guillotine eventually came down and I was laid off yet again. Me and my whole team that I had hired on like an 8-minute Zoom call, as it is. So it was time to find a new gig again. And I thought at that point in my career, like, I had been working for a decade. I had done all this cool stuff, worked at all these cool places. I had hosted things, I had produced things, I had managed things, hired people, all this stuff. So I thought, oh, I'll get a job, no problem.
Right.
And it was by far the hardest job search I had. It took me about 4.5 months to land back at WEEI, a place I had interned, a place I had started my career after graduating. And luckily, they were hiring for a digital content producer position. And I had kept my contacts at EEI fresh over the years. I had met with them in the spring whenever I got laid off, and um, it just worked out. So that's sort of the long, windy path that landed me back in Boston working for EEI and doing a job that allows me to kind of use every part of what I've done in my career. When I talk on the air, I get to use those hosting muscles. When I get to do the social media stuff, it's from all the other social stuff I've done in my career. When I'm, writing things, I'm using the stuff I did in college. So it's really a cool spot for me, and
Yeah.
I get to cover the teams I grew up rooting for. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a dream. I mean, I've been a fan for so many years. I remember being a little kid, my dad listening to WEI. So it's been, I mean, for people that don't know, it's the Boston sports station, probably the number one in the city. And Bob Ryan, you mentioned him. He's a legend in Boston sports and stuff, writing for them. But that's amazing that that story is wild. And a guy that doesn't believe in social media when it's like,
Yeah, yeah. So that guy, I mean, when he took over the company, and the reason why I'm not saying the company is because like
right,
I don't I don't appreciate how they handled everything. I don't need to give them any shine. Um, yeah, it just became clear that like, okay, this guy has a very specific vision of how he thinks things are built, and he's not really a sports guy. Like, not to dump on him, but again, I'm not saying his name or the company, so I could talk about this. So it was a few months after he took over, and it was in February, I want to say. Yeah, it was Super Bowl week, and Kevin Durant got traded at like midnight or whatever. That's when the news broke. So when you're running a social media account for sports companies, you're going to have content ready to go when
right,
news like that happens. So we're working kind of 24/7 at that point with guys. And, the way you staff it out, you have guys that are on call from X o'clock to X o'clock. And then you have the morning guys and you have the mid. So, I'm on Slack and texting with the guys like, hey, this news just broke. Like, let's start pumping some stuff out. So we were up until like 3 in the morning, like doing Kevin Durant content. And then I had a call with my boss the next day at like, I don't know, 10 a.m., something like that, 10:30. So I get on the call and he's like, hey, so how are things going? I'm like, I'm kind of dragging this morning. Obviously, we're up late with that Kevin Durant news. And he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm
What?
like, I was like, oh, well, Kevin Durant got traded last night, like right around midnight. I guess you didn't see it. He's like, I have no idea who Kevin Durant is.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And I was like, well, he's, at that point in time, I was like, well, he's probably widely regarded as the second best,
In the
player
world.
in the NBA
Yeah.
legacy wise right now behind LeBron. And, obviously you can make the case for Steph, but, you
Yeah.
get my point. And he was just like, all I know is that LeBron James plays for the team in Cleveland. And like, that's all I know about the NBA. And then I was like, well, he doesn't play for the team in Cleveland. He plays for the Lakers. Um, and then I sort of just like filed that away. Like, okay, this guy has told me he doesn't believe in social media. And now this guy is showing me like he just doesn't know anything about sports. And he's readily admitting that. So I have a boss that runs a sports betting company that's trying to make it in the States, but the guy that runs the company doesn't know sports and doesn't think social media matters for sports. So
No.
yeah, it was never going to be a good fit. So,
No.
I mean, when I started realizing that, I started my job search sort of passively. Like I started having conversations with places and you know, applying places and all that stuff. And unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out where I was going to be able to find something before I got the axe. So, good luck to them. Uh,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
say confidently that their brands have not blown up, and I'm not really shocked, given
Yeah.
given that the leadership doesn't believe in generally accepted ways of having brands work in 2025 for the sports world. So
Yeah.
we've talked too
Well,
much about them.
if you're in a, I mean, in general, we don't have to talk about them anymore, but just in general, like you need to know about your space. Like if you're opening
Yes.
a company, that's, I
Yes.
mean, for those that don't know, when I have my own nonprofit, that's why I started this whole thing. And it's for my sister that passed away, and we raise money to give scholarships to people with disabilities and stuff like that. But before doing that, I had to do a million hours of research and like all sorts of different like I knew like we did the Knights of Columbus and did charity stuff with that and other things like that. So I knew a little bit, but you need to know your space so you can be successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a blessing in disguise that things didn't work out there long
yeah,
term. The paycheck was great. I'm not going to front, but ultimately, I think that company will fail. So
it's cool to,
it would have been a matter of time, I guess.
yeah. The fact that you're at home now, well, kind of at home because you're in Rhode Island, but you're covering the sports teams that you loved growing up. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect spot for me. And I'm not like a reporter per se, so I'm allowed to still kind of have that fan hat, if you will. Like
Yeah.
I cover a ton of Red Sox games. You see me wearing a Red Sox hat right
Yeah.
now. Like I'm not necessarily paid to be objective. Like when I'm writing things for the website, depending on what I'm writing, I need to be objective. But a lot of what I'm doing is column writing. And a lot of what I'm doing at these events is I'm there essentially as a social media producer. So I'm
Mm.
getting highlights, getting sound bites, trying to find interesting things in the crowd, really trying to help drive engagement for EEI. So it's cool that, I get to, like I said, use these writing muscles, but I don't need to put the fan hat away like if I were a beat reporter. if you will.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the one of the greatest ever to call the game, Tommy Heinsohn, he was not objective. He
Not at
was
all.
pretty,
And like, look, like Tommy Heinsohn is Tommy Heinsohn, right? Like
yeah,
he played and coached for the Celtics.
yep,
You never expected that guy to be objective. And I think in the color commentator seat, especially for like a home broadcast, you almost don't want that guy to be completely objective. Like you
right,
want
yeah,
him to have a little bit of that homerism, not too much, not where it's like, I mean, I don't want to start throwing guys under the bus, but I think we can all agree like Kevin Youkilis like wasn't great when he was in the booth for Red Sox games for Nesson. And I think a lot of that was because he was afraid to say the wrong thing. Whereas when you have a guy like Dennis Eckersley, who I thought was amazing as a color commentator for Nesson games before he retired from it, you knew he loved the team and you wanted them to play well. And when he was critical, it came from a place of frustration where he
yeah,
wanted the team to be better and the organization to care more. So I think when you can kind of straddle that line, it's a really good place to be when you're in that color seat, if that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, even Scal now, I mean, he's pretty
He's not
objective, but
objective. No, he's
yeah,
not
he's
objective.
not
No.
objective, but he still has his guys though throughout the NBA. Like that's not a Celtic. Like he has
Yeah.
guys that he's like, oh, that I forget what his name is, but he always talks about a certain center. Forget what his name is right now, but he's yeah, he's not objective, but he still has his. He can be like, oh, this team is good. Like, I mean, me personally, like, obviously, I love the Celtics, but I can be objective and be like, the Thunder were better than us this year, or the Knicks were better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't personally think the Knicks were better than the Celtics this year. I think that the Knicks outplayed the Celtics
well, the
in that
ultimate
round.
ending was better. They got
Yes.
past them.
And I think that the Celtics really, crapped the bed there. They kept blowing 20-point leads. I think that I mean, they were going to lose that game when Tatum got hurt anyway. So, like, I don't use that as an excuse, but I mean, they should have won those first two games. Um, so I don't want to give the Celtics a pass for
Right. Yeah.
losing to the Knicks because they should have beaten the Knicks. That
Right.
was their series to win. They were a better team than the Knicks. They spanked the Knicks all season long. I think they were 4-0 against the Knicks. So, um, the Knicks were not the better team. The Knicks outplayed the Celtics, but the Celtics were the better team.
Right. I agree with that. But
Yeah.
speaking of that, let's get into. So I do this thing called Bobbo Sports Corner. I try to do it every Sunday, but I've been lacking lately. Uh,
It's the
just
summer, man. I get it.
just have had a lot going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so usually I go like through sport, and then I'll, I mean, obviously I'm a homer, so Boston sports, but I'll give the news of like the league or whatever too. But like you said, we were talking offline, and hockey, not one of my big ones. Like I
Okay.
know Bruins kind of sucked last year. I
Yeah,
know
I can
that.
give you a quick Bruins take in that
Yeah,
it's going to be a really painful season,
yeah,
and for
yeah,
me, I think it all hinges on Swayman actually playing up to the contract that he signs. And like, this is not hard hitting, exclusive insight that you're not going to hear anywhere else. It's just, I don't think that it takes a rocket scientist or a hockey savant to realize that Jeremy Swayman is being paid like one of the best goalies in the NHL. If he plays like that, it's going to be a much better season for Boston than it was last year, regardless if they tore it down around him. If he plays well, they have a chance to slide in at the end of that Eastern Conference in the NHL. They still have Pasta, they still have McAvoy, but they need Swayman to play like the guy he's being paid.
yeah. I mean, I watch hockey here and there, but it's not my favorite sport. But like, it is pretty amazing with hockey that if you have a hot goalie, you have a chance to win it all. Like no other sport is kind of like if you have this hot one player on your team, you'll probably win everything.
No, it's really really true. And the 2011 Bruins, that was
Yeah,
all Tim Thomas,
Tim
man.
Thomas. Yep.
2013 Tuca was unbelievable. They one of the main reasons why they got to where they got to in 2013 was because of Tuca Rask. And then 2019, he was great again. I mean, that team was stacked and they should have beaten the Blues. That was actually a very funny time in my career because I was working in St. Louis covering the Blues. And as that playoffs were kind of trickling along, I was like, oh crap. As the Blues continue to advance and I'm enjoying this and creating fun shows about it and booking all these guests, the team I actually want to win the Stanley Cup is also advancing. And then the Bruins, I think it was 11 days between them winning the Eastern Conference and then Stanley Cup game one.
Mhm.
So they had a ton of time off. And so I had like almost 2 weeks of dread on my morning show of my hosts like giving me crap about the fact that like I'm not going to be able to root for the Blues anymore because I was you know hard rooting for the Blues because it was good for our show. And then yeah, the Stanley Cup went the way it went. Just epic Game 7 fail by the Bruins. So really, really weird time for me, but fun. I mean, it was great. I got to watch the Bruins play in 3 Stanley Cup games, albeit behind enemy lines, at Enterprise Center in St. Louis.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to a champ. I've been to one playoff game, but never a championship game for any sport.
So I've been to those 3 cup games in 2019. I went to game one of the 2024 NBA Finals with my buddy. So I wasn't working at EEI yet, and my buddy has season tickets. And so I was lucky enough that he brought me to game
Yeah,
one that when Kristaps had that like amazing 8 minute stretch. I thank him forever for that. Yeah, I know he's not here for the long term, but they
yeah.
won the title in his one of his 2 seasons here, and he had that moment in game one. We'll always have that. Um, so those are the two that I've been to championship wise, and then I was able to cover Four Nations, which was the international hockey tournament
Oh, that's cool.
this past January or February, whenever that was. And that was held in Boston. Part of the tournament was in Boston. The final was in Boston as well. So got to cover that. So I think that counts. And then this March Madness, the first and second round were actually in Providence, like 12 minutes from my house. So
That's
not
cool.
necessarily like the final four, but getting to cover March Madness was championship like, if you will. Um, and that, Patino was here, Calipari was here, Bill Self was here, so there was a lot of buzz. If you guys remember the manager from McNeese State that was getting all the social media hype, that like short little guy with the glasses, that everyone said had aura. He had the aura jumpsuit that was in Providence.
Aura.
So it was cool to kind of like be in the epicenter of the most
Yeah.
interesting college basketball region for that weekend. Um, but yeah, I've never been to a Super Bowl. Would love to do that. Would love to go to a World Series game, obviously. I've heard that Super Bowl week is fun, but to actually be at the game from a media perspective is kind of like more trouble than it's worth.
Mm,
I'd still
yeah.
love to go to at least one, but I've never been to Super Bowl week or a Super Bowl game. So I'd love to do both of those at some point. And then obviously World Series would be amazing. And the WEEI is the flagship home of the Red Sox. So if they are able to somehow make something happen here in the next couple of years, harness something and go to the World Series, I would be able to go to all those games, which would be
It's cool.
incredible. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, the Super
Yeah.
Bowl was here in New Orleans, so it came like right on the heels of Mardi Gras too. So it was nuts down here. It was so many people, so many
Yeah.
like
I've heard New Orleans is a great city for the Super Bowl.
yeah.
Obviously, I mentioned Morton Anderson was my guy on the podcast, so
Mhm.
legendary Saints kicker. Um, so I've heard all of the amazing things there are to hear about New Orleans, both from Morton and the many Saints guests that we had, and everyone that has ever covered a Super Bowl there absolutely loves it.
Yeah, I would love to get some Saints that were part of that Super Bowl win, I would love to get them on this channel because that, I mean, I wasn't here at the time, but my sister was, and that like changed the city. Like it went from being horrible with Katrina,
Yeah,
and then when they won, it was like reviving the city. It was amazing.
for sure. Yeah, no, see, I mean, their first season after Katrina, the for 06,
Hmm.
um, they went to the NFC Championship game, and that was Breeze and Peyton's first season together in New Orleans. And I kind of almost, I think people forget about that 06 season because they didn't beat the Bears, but that was sort of the first sort of like awakening, and then they continued to be really good over the course of those few years, and then obviously they won the Super Bowl in 09 against the Colts in Miami, I believe. um, but yeah, I mean that whole era of Saints football was so fun. Like those offenses were amazing. Marquise Colston, Deuce McAllister, Reggie Bush. I mean, Drew Brees was one of my favorite guys to watch play football too. Just
He's just the
little
man.
short guy, just tactician back there,
Yeah,
lefty. I loved watching that guy play.
big guy down. Him, he obviously is the big dude down here, but Gleason is also another one that blocked the kick.
Yep, Steve
And
Gleason,
unfortunately,
absolutely.
he's suffering through ALS
Yeah,
and all that
it's
stuff.
terrible,
Which
terrible.
is another thing we raise money for my nonprofit. But he's like a legend down here, and he even with I just got his book from my sister, and I'm gonna read it. Even with his issues and stuff, he's still doing amazing stuff down here, and it's just impressive with all the stuff that he's going through. Still like giving back and doing everything he can until
Yeah,
his
it's
last day.
amazing. It's amazing when guys like that are able to keep it going and keep having an impact when they're going through stuff like that. Like up here in Boston, we had Pete Frates,
Radius,
who
yep.
was the guy that kind of fathered the ice bucket challenge
Yep.
about a decade ago, and he's no longer with us. But yeah, his story and what his family was able to do for ALS research is remarkable. And
Yeah,
so
it's unreal.
my hat is tipped to anyone that's going through stuff like that and can keep giving back. It's as impressive as it gets.
Yeah, it means a lot to. I mean, Pete Radius was the first one. It means a lot to my family because we had my nana, two uncles, and a cousin all die of ALS, and then
Jeez.
my sister had muscular dystrophy, which I think is connected. And then now, unfortunately, my mom has dementia, which is another neurological
Yeah.
disease. So,
I'm
like,
sorry to hear that, man.
thank you. But these people that are just godsends of people to, I mean, I mean, I don't know how much money that raised, but you had, I mean, freaking Kim Kardashian was doing the water
Oh
bucket
yeah, it's
challenge. And
it's like hundreds of millions. It's
yeah.
an enormous amount of money. And hopefully they're able to, you know, stem the tide somehow. I know
Hmm.
it's just a brutal disease that they've never really been able to find a true cure for. So um, it's one of those things that we just got to keep giving and
Yeah.
trying to spread the word on, and hopefully nonprofits like yours are able to help you know keep keep the train on the tracks, and hopefully we get the progress we need. And who knows, just got to keep fighting.
Yeah. Eventually it'll happen. I have hope. But yeah, speaking of Patriots, let's get into the NFL. I know this season, this off season's been crazy with all the. I know Patriots, in my opinion, did an amazing job drafting. I think they did great. I know people have an issue with our guy down here from LSU, Campbell, having short arms or some crap like that. But in my opinion, I think it's ridiculous. But I know some have different opinions. But I think they'll, if Drake takes another step and Stefan Diggs stays out of the trouble that he's always in, and our defense should be better. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, I think that the team is going to be much better. And I think it starts with Mike Vrabel. I think that
So,
they finally have an adult in the room post Belichick. The Gerard Mayo thing was a disaster. And the fact that they have a stabilizing force that has helped bring in real coaches that can develop and, you know, formulate a game plan on both sides of the ball, that wasn't happening last year. And it was a disorganized mess. So just from that alone, that's worth like two more wins, right? So your floor is 6 wins from the jump. If Drake May can be better, if the defense can make that step up with all of the new talent they brought in,
mhm,
if Will Campbell can be a dog and we saw it in preseason game 1, like finishing blocks and getting out there on the edge and some of the pulling that he did, it was like, man, this guy is a real athlete here.
mhm.
um, I personally think that their ceiling has been raised. I think that Vegas tells you that they are favorites to win 11 games this year.
Really?
So, what does that mean? Probably nothing, right? Because that's just sports books trying to entice people to bet certain ways. But when you actually break down the schedule, I think 11 is actually a really fair like ceiling for the team. I don't think this team's winning like 14, 15 games or winning a Super Bowl. But if they play at their apex level as good as they possibly can, I think 11 is the number. So I said their floor was 6, their ceiling is 11. So I think they'll fall somewhere in the middle there. And then
Mhm.
Pats fans should feel really good about year 2 of May, year 1 of Vrabel if they win like 8, 9 games. I think that that's a successful season for the new regime here. And then you build on that. And then you hope in year 3 that Drake May is really ready to ascend.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree too. Vrabel's like him jumping in that fight the other day and getting scratched. That
I was
was
there. Yeah.
hilarious.
So, the scrum starts, and right as it starts, you just see like a body jump in, and everyone is like, was that Vrabel? And the whole
Yeah.
thing lasted like, I don't know, 20 seconds. But the fact that he was down there for like 20 seconds is pretty crazy. Like, what was going on down there? He had a bloody cheek coming up. So, um, I think that that just like sets a tone. And I don't want to like overstate it, right? But it's just the general vibe of everything. Like the fact that Vrabel was engaged enough in what was happening that he was able to jump in a pile right away like that. Gerard Mayo was never doing that. Like Gerard Mayo was standing around just swinging a whistle on his finger, talking nonstop about how he emphasized delegation and
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yep.
And it's like, or you can be a head coach and be extremely hands-on and make sure that everyone's getting the coaching that they need at all times. I mean, you see Vrabel at these practices, he's running around all over the place. He's throwing a penny on. He's got blocking
Yeah. Yeah.
pads on. He's hitting guys. Like it's just a different vibe. And I think it's what this team needed in a massive way.
I mean, if that was my coach, I would be ready to run through a wall for him
Absolutely.
because you just show that you're part of the team kind of thing.
100%.
So, yeah, I agree with that. And then, I mean, they have the problem is the East has gotten, I mean, Bills, the AFC East, I mean, the Bills are good. The
Yep.
Dolphins are probably going to be decent. Jets, who knows? Jets are Jets. But I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
could
think
squeak
I think
in.
the Bills are going to win the division
Yeah.
unless Josh Allen gets hurt. I mean, he's just one of those quarterbacks now. Like pencil him in for 12, 13 wins and, getting to at least the second round of the playoffs. Like that's just who they are. That's who the Patriots were for 20 years. So like we're used to that. So, yeah, it's their division to lose. I personally think the Dolphins are kind of on the other side of it here. I think that their window is kind of closed. Tua can't stay healthy. Tyreek Hill was not the player that he has been last year. As someone that had him in fantasy, I can tell you firsthand, it wasn't good. It was really bad, actually. So you lose a bunch of guys on that defense as well. It's just kind of a weird situation down there in Miami. They trade Jonnu Smith,
Yeah,
who
that was
was
weird.
really important for that offense last year. A guy like, that's perfect for a guy like Tua, but they take him away. So I think the Dolphins are going to be sort of middle of the pack, fringy playoff. I guess that's what they were kind of before,
Yeah,
but they had everyone I think thought the Dolphins had this ceiling of like incredible offense, Hill and Waddle and Tua when he's healthy, but I just don't think Tua can stay healthy. He's never
right.
shown that he can. And then the Jets, like you said, they're the Jets. Like they have incredible talent, but they have Justin Fields playing quarterback, who's like the ultimate wild card. You never know
Mhm.
what you're going to get. He's a great athlete. He's super fast. And yeah, he had a good record as the Steelers starter last year. But then you actually like look at it with a microscope and you're like, oh, it was really weak schedule and their defense was really good to start the year. So I don't feel good about the Jets ever, but especially when they're going into a season with Justin Fields as the sort of choice, and they have a first time head coach. It's different than Vrabel, right? Because Vrabel has been a head coach. He's won
Yeah,
coach of the year.
yeah.
He brought the Titans to an AFC championship game. He was the number one seed with the Titans in a year where they used, I think, 96 different players in the regular season, which is an NFL record. They were so injured, yet he
It's
kept the
wild.
train on the tracks and they had a great year. So, like, Aaron Glenn is a guy who's been an assistant in the league for a long time, but we don't know how he is as a head coach. So you got a first time head coach with a roster that's in flux. So I think the Patriots are decidedly like the second team in the AFC East. And
That's
that's a
nice.
good place to be right now,
Yeah,
given where the Bills are and the way the AFC is. I think that they could very well be a wild card team this season if they play close to their ceiling.
in my opinion, they're wild card, and from there, I mean, it's called the wild card for a reason. You never know what's going to happen. But the only thing with the NFL, me and my dad talk about this a lot, is that you can be like 8 and 9, but win your division and still get in the playoffs.
You're right.
When your other the other division has a team that's more wins than you and doesn't get it. They did that with the Patriots with who was the quarterback at that time?
Matt
Um,
Castle.
Matt Castle.
Yep.
And Brett Favre needed to lose or win. I forget. I remember that situation, but it was like,
Yep.
really? We're not in the playoffs,
Yep. They
but this,
they were the first 11 win team to miss the playoffs in NFL history.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird system, but I think for the most part it works. Like you have some quirky years, like as a guy that lives in New Orleans, I'm sure you remember the Beastquake game. That
Mm,
Seahawks team was 7-9. The Saints had, I don't know, 12 wins or something that year, had one of the best offenses in the league. But I think the Falcons won the NFC South that year. So the Saints were a wild card team. And even though they were better than the Seahawks, they had to go to Seattle. And clearly the home field advantage worked in Seattle's favor that game. So yeah, it's weird sometimes, but I think for the most part, the NFL kind of has it right. I personally don't like that they added the seventh team. I liked the way they had it, but
mhm,
I think they'll eventually have eight. That's just the way it's going to go.
right. Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny that I ended up in New Orleans being a Boston fan and a New England fan because as a New England Patriots fan, you should like the Saints because they it's really funny because they when we the Super Bowl versus the Falcons when we came back, what was it, 28-3, and we came back.
Yep.
The Saints love that more than the Patriots because they got screwed in that playoff game against the Falcons, if you remember. And they had like billboards made and all sorts of stuff all over the city of like 28-3 and all this.
Yeah, I mean
It's
they're
hilarious.
massive rivals. That's like a
Yeah.
classic NFL rivalry, Saints and Falcons. So yeah, I'm sure Saints fans loved when the Patriots made that happen. I know
It's
I
really
certainly
funny.
loved it as a Patriots fan, but yeah,
Yep.
I'm sure they appreciated us, you know, grabbing their rivals one chance at winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because the other time the Falcons were in the Super Bowl was an absolute blowout. And Denver took care of business for their repeat, and I've heard plenty about that game as well as a guy that was, doing a podcast with Morton Anderson. He was a kicker on that Falcons team, so um, yeah, Falcons have dealt with a lot of misery as a franchise. That is for sure.
I can't. I mean, I love Matt Ryan because of
Me
BC
too.
and stuff.
Yeah,
But
I love Matt Ryan. I've no issue with the Falcons. Like I'm
yeah,
not like a Falcons hater in any way. I if the Patriots weren't gonna be in the Super Bowl that year, I was like, I'd love for Matt Ryan to win a Super Bowl. It's great for the program that I grew up rooting for, but
yep,
um, didn't work out that way. And I'd rather the Patriots have another ring than Matt Ryan have one.
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we think maybe the wild card for the Patriots. So let's move on to the Red Sox, as you're wearing the Red Sox hat. Me and my dad actually recently just went to the Houston Astros game in Houston.
Cool.
Unfortunately, we lost. We did come back. We
Were
came.
you at
We
Were you at the Bregman game?
Yeah, Bergman game. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, that was hilarious.
That was a cool moment.
They did all sorts of like, oh, welcome back, Bregman, and all this stuff. He hits a home run, and the next like three time he's up, they boo the hell out of him. Like you just cheered him on. What
No,
happened?
that was great. I love that. That's great. Fans rule. I love that. That
Yeah,
was awesome.
they did a really cool thing for what's his name,
Correa.
Correa too, because he that was his first home game when he got traded back, and they
Yep.
played the song "I'm Coming Home," and it was really nice. And he played really well.
Yeah,
That
he's been
1-2
crushing
punch,
it since they brought him back.
that 1-2 punch of Correa and Altuve is pretty formidable.
Yeah.
But
And Pena. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and Pena, yeah. But last night they crushed Red Sox crushed them, so
Yep.
we'll see. But I think, I mean, they since trade. It's funny since trade endeavors, they seem to be playing really well, and they won 10 in a row at one point right before
Mm-hmm.
the All-Star break. Um, I'm like I said, I'm more a Celtics fan, basketball fan, but my dad is an enormous Red Sox fan, baseball fan, because his dad was. So I do watch it because obviously you want that father sometime. Um, so it's nice to see him happy again because he wasn't for a little bit because the
Yeah,
Red
no,
Sox
it's
kind of sucked.
they're playing well. And this whole Roman Anthony thing has been an absolute joy. Um, the kid looks like a 10-year vet, confident as it comes, can play the field. I mean, just ask him to do anything. You want me to lead off? Sure.
Roman
Hitting
Empire.
clutch? Sure. Yeah, like nothing is too big for this kid right now.
Yep.
And, it could just be a hot stretch, but there's a reason why he was the number one prospect in baseball. And it's really a shame that they weren't able to call him up sooner. I know they could have called him up sooner, but there were financial reasons why they didn't want to, which is very Red Soxian of them. But he's here now and he looks fantastic. And every night is fun watching that guy play. And every fifth day when Garrett Crochet pitches, other than that night in Houston, is an absolute joy because that
Yeah.
guy is a horse, man. I mean, he had his one bad game of the year. Like every starting pitcher, whether you are, Bob Gibson in your prime or whoever, you're bound to have a bad game. So,
Oh, it was
like,
funny though
he had his
because
bad game, and it is what it is.
yeah, it was funny though because me and my dad driving there because we drove, we didn't take a plane, so it was like 5-6 hours of driving, and we're like, oh, I want to see Crochet. I hope Crochet pitches, and then they announced him pitching. We're like, yes, and then he sucks, and we're like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
just
it's a bummer
happened?
for you. Yeah. At
But
least, I mean, the fact that you were there for the Bregman moment's cool. And he's been great.
yeah,
And, he was a guy that crushed it at Fenway Park his entire time playing for the Astros. So as soon as they made that signing, Red Sox fans were immediately rushing to baseball reference and filtering his Fenway games. And, getting all excited about that, and he's lived up to It's too bad that he was injured for the stretch that he was, and it was kind of a weird injury. I was actually covering that game. It was kind of a ho hum ground out to first base. He pulled the quad, and it took him forever to come back. It took like two months almost. Um, Maybe it was less than that, but it felt like 2 months.
A long time, yeah.
And he's he's kind of picked up where he left off, and he's been good in the field. He's that leader that they needed, and I don't think it's a coincidence that getting Rafael Devers out of that clubhouse and then this team going the right direction, that correlates. Like, Rafi clearly didn't have a great attitude,
Yeah.
clearly wasn't willing to help the team. And of course, he was really, really good at hitting when he was
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
Red Sox. He hasn't been good with the Giants, but he rounded into form as a really good DH. And um, for whatever
It's the
reason,
attitude.
it was
Yeah.
the attitude. It didn't. The guy could be the best DH in the AL, but him being that presence, and it just wasn't clicking. They got him out of here. Look what it is now. So
Yep.
it's kind of like '04. Like, they traded Nomar at the deadline. Everyone was freaking out. Clearly, getting Nomar out of there was something that clubhouse needed. And they
Helped.
brought in
Yeah.
Cabrera, and they brought in Dave Roberts, and they brought in Mankiewicz. And that was the right ingredients to bring in the mix. And, you had '04 happen. And I'm not conflating Nomar to Rafael Devers, but I guess they're kind of comparable, right? Like,
He was one of the best shortstops.
massive Red Sox stars, right?
Yeah.
Nomar at his peak was, arguably better than Jeter, maybe
Yep.
never better than A-Rod, but Red Sox fans would tell you better than A-Rod. Um, but yeah, I think that there's probably more correlation there than I'm giving credit, but regardless, it's similar in that you got the extremely popular guy out of here and then the team took off. I'm not predicting the Red Sox are going to win the World Series this year. I personally don't think that the starting pitching is deep enough for them to
Yeah.
do it. I just don't think that you can rely on Giolito as that third starter in the
He's been
postseason.
good, but
He's been good, but he has the peaks and he has the valleys, man. He is what he is. He's very Derek Lowe to me,
okay. Yeah.
and Derek Lowe can be Derek Lowe when you have Pedro and Kurt Schilling in their prime, right? Pedro kind of post prime, but you get the drift. So, and Wakefield obviously was on that '04 team. So, um, yeah, I think Bayo has looked really good this year. So, like, I think it's cool to see him at age 26 finally, like, being the guy that I think everyone thought he could be. So Crochet is your one, Bayo is your two. I guess I feel okay about that. I'm still kind of worried about Bayo too. Like, I'm not ready to just be like, "Yep, Bayo's your number two," and you feel great about it.
Right.
Um, I wish they had brought in Joe Ryan at the deadline. I guess they tried at the last second. They said they were uncomfortably aggressive or whatever the weird verbiage Breslow wanted to use about it.
A
Clearly,
lot.
they
They
weren't
wanted a
aggressive
lot back.
enough. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
When you're trying to make a deadline deal, the price is going to be really high.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I get it. Like, if the Twins were like, give us Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer, no, obviously that's a
Yeah.
no. But
No.
apparently that was kind of what they were asking for. And I don't, I'm not reporting anything. They also were, I guess, asking for Peyton Tolle, who's the top
Yeah.
pitching
Yeah.
prospect in their system. If it's just Tolle and Mayer, then yes, you should do that deal. They shouldn't have blinked twice. Like, drive Marcelo Mayer to the airport. I think he's looked good at times, but, like, yes, you need Joe Ryan. Like, he is going to help you actually have a chance to win the World Series this year, as opposed to being sort of in this middle ground. I think there's a lot of smoke around the team possibly moving for him this offseason. So I think maybe next year's Red Sox team, you could see him pitching at Fenway as the number two behind Crochet. But it's too bad because it does feel like they're kind of catching lightning in a bottle here, but I don't think there's going to be enough lightning to
Right.
get him across the finish line.
Let me ask you this: two things. One for Devers. I know he had the whole like, oh, I'm not. He was pissed because they changed his positions and all this stuff. And even though when he went to San Francisco, he said, I'll play wherever, which annoyed me. But when, even before that, I was talking to my dad watching the game. I'm like, he doesn't look like he's showing effort to me at all. Like
Yeah.
he's kind of like you see, what's his name? Duran, like running as fast. I know he's way faster than Devers,
No, but
but
I get the point. Yeah, like
he's
yeah.
given that effort of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to run through a wall to try to get this base. And Devers is just kind of just
Yeah.
doing it, whatever. And I kept seeing that. And my dad's like, no, I don't think that's the
No,
thing.
no, you had the right idea. The effort was
Yeah.
not there.
But
Um
then what happened. And my dad was like, oh, maybe you're right. Like
yeah, no,
maybe
you were right.
just trying to sabotage what's going on. And
I don't know that it was a sabotage thing. I think that's just who he is. Like if he puts good contact on a ball and he feels good about it, like he'll try, right? But if he grounds it out and he thinks he's gonna get thrown out at first, like he's not gonna go out of his way to put a ton of effort in. Like if everything's perfect for Devers, he's a good soldier. But if the
that
slightest thing is off for the guy and you ask him to do something a little different, it's no, 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 no. And it's like, dude, you weren't a good fielding third baseman. You're here and you got paid because you can hit. They're asking you to just be a DH. You don't have to do the thing that you kind of suck at.
yeah,
This should be a no brainer. And he put up a big stink about it. And then when he agreed to switch to DH, which really isn't like switching a position, it's just being given less work to do.
more
And then
bad.
when they were
Yeah,
like, "Hey, we need you to be a first baseman now because Casas got hurt," and he's like, "No, I already switched positions." It's like you really didn't. You
no.
just stopped playing the field. Now we're asking you to play the easier side of the field, and it's kind of a similar position. People go between third and first all the time. A guy who's a much worse player than you in theory, Abraham Toro, seems totally cool doing it, but you just don't want to do it. So, okay. So, yeah, it was clear that Devers didn't want to be here. I mean, he can say whatever he wants to say. The way I feel about it, the moment that they brought Bregman in to be the third baseman, I think that's when he was like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. And I don't agree with that at all. Like you, dude, you were born to be a DH. And he was the best DH in the AL. So for him to have any lingering resentment about that is just absolute BS to me. And for him to use that as his way of not playing first when they needed him to do it, to have that flexibility in the
Yeah,
lineup to allow them to get those young guys like Roman Anthony up sooner, it's just, it sucks. And so it's good that he's gone. In the moment, I hated it. And then as things played out, and I kind of had hindsight about it, I'm like, this is an excellent thing that happened for this team.
yeah. I didn't mind it, but I was also like, where is that offense coming from then now that he's gone?
Yeah, and that's why I
So
hated it at first. It
yeah,
was like the team, he was their best hitter at that
yeah,
point. The team hadn't really rounded into form yet. Roman Anthony wasn't up and doing what he's been doing. And I guess we're going to just rely on that to keep happening. But, Duran's playing better. Bregman's back from injury. He's been great. Trevor Story continues to hit, which is a huge, huge revelation for this team.
yeah,
Narvaez has been awesome. I
yeah.
mean, it, if a bunch of other rookies weren't doing what they're doing, he'd be in the rookie of the year conversation. I mean, he's been an absolute revelation for this team. So, um, yeah, it's one of those things where in the moment when you trade Devers, you kind of understand why people are mad. It's like he's the only guy hitting. Why are you doing that? I think he homered literally that day against the
Yeah.
Yankees on Father's Day. So, um, it was curious timing, but now you kind of
You
play
get
it
it.
all out
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, see you later, dude.
Yep. And the other question I have for you, I've been thinking about this a lot too. Even definitely watching them live, it seemed like they're very cohesive now that he's gone. But my question is like, given watching 2004 and 2007, those years, do you feel like this is kind of on the cusp of that, where you might not have that superstar guy or like traded for that, but you have these young guns coming up like Roman Anthony, like playing well, and then you have these veterans that came over like Bregman and stuff playing well, and it's all coming together that it might possibly be something big.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there yet. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but like '04, you had Pedro and Kurt Schilling.
Right, yeah.
And 2007, you had a really strong starting rotation. And both of those teams had prime David Ortiz and prime Manny Ramirez, the
Yeah, yeah.
greatest 3-4 combination maybe in the history of baseball. So it's just, it's hard to say that what we're seeing right now, given the inconsistencies that we've seen from this season, that this team is on either of those teams' levels. And it's
Like
definitely not
eventually,
on the
maybe a year or
2018 Red
two.
Sox
Yeah.
level, which they were a wagon. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they're a year or two away. But when you just have Crochet and you don't really feel super confident about everything else, I do feel good about Chapman as the closer. He's been excellent. And that guy is just imposing being around the team and in the clubhouse and in the dugout before games. He's massive. Like you see that guy and you try and envision being a hitter on the other side of that with that humongous man throwing 100 miles an hour at you. It's a wonder that it's no wonder why that guy has had the career he's had. Absolute freak. Um, but yeah, I'm not ready to put this team on the level of those all time great Red Sox teams yet. I think it has more of a 2013 feel where
Okay.
that team was not expected to do anything. I mean, I
Yeah.
think they were projected to win like 80 games or something like that. And then I think they won like 96 games and won the World Series. That team also had prime David Ortiz, the
Right.
extended prime of the greatest DH of all time, and had pitchers that finally stepped up and, played at the level that they were expected to play at before. So, um, yeah, I think it's more akin to that 2013 feel where like there's some veterans and like I think Bregman is a really high end free agent. Like he's definitely way better than any of the free agents that were brought in ahead of the 2013 season. Like semi washed up Shane Victorino and Mike Napoli. Like,
Oh yeah,
they're
Mike
not
Napoli.
game changer type guys, right? Johnny
Mhm.
Gomes, like, but they were important for that team. And like that, it just worked. Like that 2013 Red Sox are like one of my favorite Boston sports teams ever. Like '08 Celtics, 13 Sox. I really liked the 14 Pats. '01 Pats, obviously. Like, again, I'm just kind of making a top five here in my head.
What about
2011
the IT
Bruins.
Celtics?
So I'm just going with championship
Oh, okay,
teams. Like I
all right.
loved the IT Celtics too. Like
That was so much fun.
I was an absolute fanboy green teamer for
Yeah.
those IT teams because they just weren't expected to do anything.
Nope.
Um, and they, find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals. Uh, Watching that guy play basketball was an absolute joy. Me and my friends talk about Isaiah Thomas all the time in our
Oh,
group chats. It's actually very funny. Um, but yeah, so like of the championship teams, I loved that 2013 team. So if this team can like harness that and go on a run, it will end up being one of my favorite teams ever, especially because of what they did to get rid of Devers too. Like getting like the whole negative energy, getting it out of there, and then like everything turning. Like I love that narrative. So if that can all play out, it would be amazing. I just think it's a tall task.
yeah, it feels like they need like maybe like you said, Ryan, like one more pitcher and maybe another bat, and then we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you before we move on to my team, the Celtics, I'll tell you one story I think you'll enjoy. In '04, the ALCS, when the Sox came back and beat the Yankees, I was at the House of Blues, and Alter Bridge, which is my favorite band, was playing, and the Red Sox won, and Damon, Veritek, and Bronson Arroyo all came over and sang with Alter Bridge, and it was awesome. And Arroyo, obviously, he has an awesome voice because he can
Yeah.
play guitar and whatever. Damon and Veritek were horrible, but it was still fun. But you were talking
Amazing.
about a big dude. I walked by Damon. I thought, just looking at him in center field, he doesn't look that big. He was giant compared to
Yeah,
me.
he's a
I
big
was like,
dude.
holy crap.
Damon's a big dude for sure. I've
I was
met
like,
him
that dude.
once at when I was working for that company out of Costa Rica when they had when Massachusetts made sports betting legal. They had this
Hmm.
big event at Encore Casino in Boston, and they brought a bunch of former athletes in, and Damon was one of the guys. So got to talk with him for a few minutes and hung out for a little bit when I was covering the event. Massive guy, and like now that he's not playing, like he's put on a few pounds too. I'm like, this I would not want to mess with this dude, you
No.
know?
Yeah, so speaking of Chapman, you were talking about him. This will lead us into the Celtics, but I used to work at, do you know Signature Flight in New Bedford?
No,
It
never
was
heard
out
of
of
it.
Hanscom Airfield Base.
Never heard
Okay,
of it.
so it's a private airline, and that's what the Celtics fly. And I used to work there, and I walked by Garnett one time when I was or he was behind me, and because they were all, he was kind of I love Garnett, but he was kind of a diva. He was like always late to come to the plane. But yeah, so he was standing behind me, and I looked up, and I was like, I there's no way I would ever pick a fight with this dude. He would like murder me. Because also he's like the most intense person in the
Yeah, and
world.
he's crazy. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
enormous and he's insane. Yes.
Like even listening to, I don't know if you listen to his podcast, but
I hear
listening to his,
clips. Yeah.
yeah, even listening to his podcast, he's still like, I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. like,
He's a nut. I love
like,
him.
calm down, dude. But yeah, so going in, let's go into the NBA first. Before we get into the Celtics, what was your take on Luka Doncic being traded? That
Oh
shocked me.
man.
Like,
Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of the craziest things that has ever happened in the NBA. Honestly, like I'm not overstating it. It came out of nowhere. I remember it was a Saturday night, and I was driving some friends home. We were out for a friend's birthday. My brother called me, and he had been drinking, and he calls me and he's like, "Tom, Luka Doncic just got traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis." And he's like all drunk, and I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude? Like, this is a weird drunk call. Like, well, I don't get the joke here." He's like, "I'm being serious," and then he hung up on me, and I'm like, "What?" And I was driving, so I couldn't like check my phone.
yeah,
So I told my friends in the car to shut up, and I put on sports radio, and of course it was wall to wall for all the national shows on a weekend, and they were just talking Luka. So I was like, "Oh my god, he wasn't. That wasn't just a random drunk joke phone call. Like that
how it
just
happened.
happened."
yeah,
And it was insane. And I think it's I think it's maybe the most interesting storyline to follow this season is sort of the seat change that's happening in LA right before LeBron's eyes. Like nothing has ever happened like this for him, right? It's always been the LeBron show. And right in front of the dude, they found the next guy that's going to be the face of the franchise. And they need to figure out the balancing act of ushering in that Luka era while sort of moonlighting the LeBron era. And you had all the rumors this summer. You had the Mavericks as a landing spot and all sorts of other whispers. It's just anytime a guy like LeBron is getting moved, it's more than just like a basketball decision, right?
yeah,
Like
it's crazy.
when he was leaving the Cavs originally, it was, well, he's going to go to New York because he's the face of New York, or he's going to go to the Nets because Jay-Z is there and it's
Yeah.
the spectacle of Jay-Z and LeBron. And oh, he'll go to Miami because it's South Beach and a guy like that can play. It's like it was never going to be like he's a great fit basketball wise in Minnesota, so he'll go there, right? There always has to be
Right.
like that secondary thing. So, he goes to Miami, goes back to Cleveland. Oh, he can go back to Cleveland because it's coming home, right? And they had all those young pieces in place. It just made sense. They had the assets to get Kevin Love, yada yada. When he's leaving Cleveland, oh, it's LA. It speaks for itself. LeBron James playing for the Lakers. It's like
Movies, everything.
it's the legacy of great players ending their career in LA. Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, every generation it happens. Shaq, well, didn't end his career there, but went there for his prime. So, um, it's weird because there's now not really that cozy fit for LeBron to do his LeBron thing while also having like that secondary angle to work with,
Mm.
right? Like would the Knicks want LeBron? I feel like they wouldn't want to like screw up what they have going on, right?
Yeah.
Would LeBron want to play for Brooklyn? Probably not. LeBron James can't be playing basketball in Brooklyn, and that organization is in disarray. Would LeBron go back to Cleveland? They have
It,
really nice pieces, but does LeBron work with those pieces? A lot of those guys are really ball dominant, and is LeBron willing to be a non ball dominant guy? Would he go
how
back to
much do they give
Miami?
up? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it's just weird. Like, where does LeBron fit? Would he go to the Clippers? You stay in LA, so then you still have the LA of it all. You have the cool sort of rivalry piece there, and but then the Lakers have to do business with the Clippers. And then also the Clippers have like a nice little thing going, right? So do you kind of want to screw that up? I don't know. It's just weird. It's all sorts of strange. And then you have Luka losing all this weight this offseason. So like I'm excited to see what that looks like this year. So it's to me the most fascinating storyline by far is the LeBron Luka balancing act and
Yeah.
sort of how that all plays out.
Yeah, I did a video for it and I was totally wrong because I was like, oh, I think Dallas gets better at that than LA because Luca, supposedly the reason why was like he wasn't getting in shape and all this stuff. That's why they wanted to get rid of him, supposedly, but I don't know if that's true or not. But Anthony Davis was playing well and everything. And then, like, I think it was like the
First
first
game.
game he got hurt.
Yep.
And I was like,
Can't make it
oh,
up,
well,
man.
that doesn't help. And then,
The
like you
fact
said,
that he got hurt and then Kyrie got hurt and then they
yeah,
ended up with
Kyrie
Cooper
too.
Flag is just unbelievable. It's just
Yeah, and
unbelievable.
then like you said, you see these videos of Luca like looking jacked, and it's like, wait a minute, is LeBron in his ear? Like, dude, you're not going to be able to do anything unless you get in shape, and you'll have this whole franchise to yourself eventually, and like you're gonna be the one. And yeah, you're right. They're really interesting to. I hate to say it because I'm a
Yeah, I
Boston
hate the
fan. I hate the
Lakers. Yeah, I
Lakers,
hate
but
him. I
it's
hate the Lakers
fascinating.
and LeBron is my least favorite athlete
Yep,
of all time. So I hate it, but it's completely
it is
intriguing.
fascinating. But yeah, that and then like you said, the number one pick out of nowhere goes to Dallas when they had what a
Unreal.
2% chance or something like that. They get Cooper
Unbelievable.
Flag, and now yeah. So moving on to the Celtics, which is my bread and butter. How do you feel about the Celtics this year? Because to me, I'll tell you how I feel. I think it's a chance to for Jalen to show I'm a number one dude and I'm gonna take off. And once Tatum comes back, hopefully they can work together and all that. But I think Brown is gonna have a crazy season. And yeah, I don't think they're gonna be number one or maybe win a championship, but I've heard people be like, oh, they're gonna be in the lottery and all this.
No,
I don't think that at all because you still have White, you still have all Pritchard probably will start hopefully and see what he
definitely.
does. See what he does with a starting role, which he's my favorite player out of anybody. I love Pritchard, but like I said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown is in MVP conversation this year because of just the amount of ball dominance he's gonna do and all that.
Yeah, so I think that the Celtics could still be a top 5 team in the East because the East is really weak. And I think Jaylen is in store for what could be his best individual season because he will, for the first time in his career, be the true number one.
Guy. Yep.
So I'm excited to watch that, but my expectations are exactly that. It's going to be like middle of the pack, middle to higher end of the pack type of season in the Eastern Conference. I was talking with Justin Turpin the other day, who covers the Celtics for WEEI,
Mhm.
and he brought up a good point. It's like, yes, Jaylen should have a huge season and probably will, but if this team is being smart, they are going to be managing Jaylen's minutes and playing time
Hmm.
in a way where they realize it's not about winning the championship this year. We got to think about what it's going to be next year when Tatum is back.
Yeah.
So if that means Jaylen only plays 60 games, then so be it. Because remember, he's coming off knee surgery too. So, and yes, that was just a cleanup, but it's surgery nonetheless. And he was really hampered down the stretch last season. And I think to a detriment, he played on that knee because he was so focused on trying to meet that 65 game threshold to try and win these awards and all that stuff. And it's just stupid. And it's
Right.
dumb that any award should be attached to that type of stuff. I understand what they were trying to do, but it just doesn't work. So they need to change that.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think Jaylen's gonna have a big season, but I think, and again, this is not my original take, but I'm stealing it from Terp. I think if they're smart, they will manage Jaylen and the rest of their important pieces like it's all right, we'll do as much as we can this year, but in reality, we got to focus on when Tatum's back. That's when we can actually possibly win a championship. So let's make sure everyone's healthy and good to go for the 26-27 season.
Yeah. So taking in that, in my opinion, the best thing would be if they, like you said, fifth, sixth place. I don't think, like we said, I don't think we're going to win a championship. But if we did, that would be amazing. But I don't think that's going to happen. But the best would be if they face the Knicks in the first round and boot them out, and then
That would be great.
lose in the
Yeah,
second round.
if the Knicks were like a 2 seed,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be awesome. The Celtics, yeah, I love that. That'd be great.
it would be amazing. Because if you like, who's the top teams? I mean, you got obviously Knicks are up there. Cleveland definitely is up there. Indiana might be, but who knows with
Halliburton's out.
Halliburton. They're
I
putting
think
Atlanta up there.
Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's still in the mix because of
Yeah,
Giannis. I think Orlando's going to be better because of the
Orlando.
Bane
Yeah,
trade. I think Detroit is going to be better. They showed that they were kind of on the cusp last year. I think that's
right.
kind of the mix.
With to
I
me
you have
though,
to think Philly is going to be better. If Embiid's healthy.
never have
You know,
faith in Philly.
can't.
But they,
But like Maxi's really good, right?
yes, he
So
is.
like you just have to chalk last year up as a season from hell for Philly and think that they're going to be better this year, right? I think
Yeah,
so. But there's a lot of question marks in the East, no question.
they talk about Atlanta now because we traded Porzingis to Atlanta, but I'm hesitant with that because I do think that pick and roll with Trey Young and Porzingis would be killer, but he still doesn't know what that illness was,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
still is injured a
it's
lot.
weird. Yeah, I'm not ready to put Atlanta in any sort of championship conversations, and it's for everything you just said
Yeah,
about
like
Porzingis. Like
I love Porzingis. I think he did a lot for us. I think
he was
he's a
perfect for what he was on
yeah.
that team.
I think he was an amazing guy. Like always had a smile on his face and stuff. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he's healthy and everything. But it's weird that they never found out what is wrong with him. Like that's
Yeah, and
scary to me.
like who like they might know, and
Yeah,
people just
yeah,
might not know. Like I'm not going to speculate, but you know they might know, and it's just not out there. It'd be crazy to me that a professional athlete with all the money in the world and all the access to medical care, they wouldn't be able to find a single diagnosis for what he's dealing with. Like I am skeptical on that front. I think that they know, and it's
yeah. I
just
agree with
not
that,
out
but
there for
I
whatever reason.
I just hope he's not ignoring it. You know what I mean? Like if they're like, oh, maybe you should take time off or whatever, and he's like, no, I want to play. I hope
Mm-hmm.
he's not doing that because those situations never turn out well. So
No, yeah, 100%, 100%.
but yeah, so I think number one is probably what do you think, Cleveland this year?
Yeah, yeah. I think you just kind of chalk them up as the best team in the Eastern Conference. They were last season. Everyone's coming back.
Yep.
Another season under their belt. Yeah, I'd feel good about calling them the number one seed. And
I will say,
you have to think those guys continue to get better.
yeah, I will say Milwaukee does scare me because if they're fully healthy coming back, who knows? I mean, they did get rid of Dame, so
Yeah, it's just
that's
I
okay.
kind of just give them props because they have Giannis, and like the way
Yeah.
basketball is, if you have one of the five best players in the league, you're gonna win 50 games, 45 to 50 games just from that alone, right? So like just Giannis alone makes them scary.
I agree with that. So where do you put? So you put Celtics in fifth and being maybe
Yeah, I
booted
think like
out in the
they're
first.
I think that their ceiling is like a fifth seed, and if they can win a series, that would be incredible. But like that's sort of I think what the expectation should be.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
they don't have their best player.
right. And speaking of him, don't rush him back, please. I saw him
No.
without the boot and everything at Patriots practice. Please don't be like, oh, he's fine. Like, bring him back. No, keep him out
So
for a year.
I was at Patriots practice when he was there. I was also at a community event in Providence the next day that he was at. And I know all sorts of fans were posting videos and pictures like, look, he's walking without a boot, yada yada. I got to tell you, I don't think he was walking all that great without a boot.
Yeah,
There was a significant limp, hitch, whatever you want to call it, to the way he was walking. It's great that he's not in a boot, and I'm very happy that he got the surgery when he did and all this stuff. He should not see the floor this season. I mean, look, if he gets cleared, he will force them to let him play. Like that's just the
sure.
type of guy he is. But I just don't think that there's a universe where Jason Tatum should play basketball this year. Like, just it is what it is, buddy. It happens. Take the year. You're still young, and hopefully you come back as close to 100% as possible. Because, like, say what you want about Tatum and how the year ended for the Celtics. Because, again, they lost 2 games and really 3 games with him being healthy for 95% of those games. What was it, like 8 minutes left in that game 3 that they lost? He was having an amazing season. Again, he is
Yeah,
an incredible basketball player, but you got to be healthy to keep that going. So
right.
if you try and push it and come back and you re-aggravate it or you don't allow yourself to get back to 100%, you're just never going to be the same. You're going to be like Grant Hill, who just
Yeah,
kept trying to come back and it never really panned out for him. Now, luckily, Tatum has the ring, right? He will be cemented as an all-time great Celtic because he did it. He finished the mission. But to be sort of in that elite Celtics tier, the standard is even greater. So if Tatum wants to be on the Bird, Russell, Kuzi level, and he wants to get out of that kind of like Pierce rung, you got to go win another title. So
yeah,
I think that that needs to be the goal. And he's still young enough where he could win multiple titles. But it can't be this season. It won't
Right.
be this season. And I think he just needs to recognize that and focus on what's next.
I also think Brad is gearing up for that too, because he made some moves and got a lot of second round picks and a bunch of different maneuvers. And I don't know. I just feel like he's not done. I think there's maybe they do it at the trade deadline this year, but I doubt it. But next year, when Tatum's back, I have a feeling he's going to be like, this is in my back pocket and let's go.
He's been great. Like
Yeah.
Brad Stevens has just been elite as an executive. So yeah, I like he's reached the point where I have complete trust in him to do the right thing. Um, like blind faith. Like, okay, if you think this is the right thing to do it. So yeah, I'm with you. Like whenever Tatum's
Yeah.
back, I'm sure Brad will surround him with a great team and they'll be right back in the mix.
And my uncle Jim, who's a huge sports fan, shout out Uncle Jim. He's always texting we have a sports group, text group, and he's always texting, in Brad we trust.
Yeah,
We're
like
like,
he's
yep,
reached that level for sure.
yeah. So to end I've been taking up a lot of your time. To end this, I'll let you choose one thing. Usually I do like a lightning round kind of thing,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
since we're talking sports, I thought it would be fun to do like your favorite athletes outside of Boston athletes and then pick your favorite
Okay.
Boston athletes. So like in hockey, who is your favorite outside of the Bruins?
Hmm. Hockey is a fun one because it's definitely the sport I'm like the least diehard about.
Mm-hmm.
So, favorite non-Bruin for hockey, oddly enough, I guess oddly enough isn't the right way to say it. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau. Um, I'm a BC fan. My dad went to BC. I love BC football, love BC basketball. BC hockey is one of the elite programs. And Johnny Hockey was absolutely electric at BC. And so for a little guy like that to come into the NHL and be as good as he was right from the jump was awesome. So Johnny Gaudreau is that guy for me. It's obviously an absolute tragedy what happened there. Um, so I'm sorry to be like morbid with my first
Uh,
answer of this fun lightning round, but Johnny Gaudreau is the guy.
he was good. Mine would be Sidney Crosby. And it's not, I mean, he's an
See, I
excellent
like
player.
I hate the Penguins,
Yeah, I do
so
too.
like I can't really
But
go that way.
I'll tell you why. So I do hate the Penguins too, but my uncle Billy, that had ALS and unfortunately passed, he lived in Pittsburgh. So whenever we visited him, he always had the Penguins on.
Got it.
So I got to see Sydney play, and I was like, all right, yeah, he's good. And so
Okay,
it
that's
was
fair.
definitely him. But okay, for Bruins, who would be your top one or top couple?
Favorite Bruin of all time. It's not like a sexy answer or like interesting to say Patrice Bergeron, but it's Patrice Bergeron. Like I'm 33 years old and I grew up in New England. Patrice Bergeron was omnipresent for me as a Bruins fan. Was a huge part of three teams that went to the Stanley Cup final, one of which that won. And he was just the everyman. No ego about him, was a two-way player. Absolutely love the guy. Team first. How you'd be hard pressed to find a guy my age that grew up in this region that doesn't give that same exact answer. It's him or Chara. I mean, Chara is one of the greatest defensemen of all time. So you put him in the mix there too. I loved Marchand because he was just an irritant, and yet people that didn't watch him play didn't realize how good he was. And you saw what he was able to do for Florida this year. He was just perfect in that he fit what they do mentally and then could just be a guy that they throw in there, like doesn't need to be a top line player. Him as like a third liner is amazing. So the fact that he signed there for a huge, I think he's like 6 years, which is crazy for a guy at that age, but he clearly loves what they're doing. I don't blame him. So like those would be the three. Um, I really liked Tim Thomas as a kid because my name is Tom. My brother is named Tim. So as kids,
Oh,
we
really?
loved that there was a
That's
player,
funny.
Tim Thomas. Kind of a goofy reason, but like
It's
whatever. That
awesome though.
we loved it. And then when he sort of was, he was kind of a late bloomer, right? So like my brother and I, we live in the Providence area, and so we used to see him play on the Providence Bruins.
Okay.
And then when he became an actual really good player in the NHL, it was like we felt like we like had inside knowledge or something. Like we've known this guy since he was on the P Bruins, and we would make jokes about him being named Tim Thomas, and we're so um, kind of a goofy one, but that those are kind of like the four that jump out right away.
Oh, that's fun. Mine would be definitely Marshawn, just because he was the little ball of hate. That's what they call him. He, you hate when he's against you, and you love when he's on your team. I think that's so much fun.
one Hundred
Because when
percent.
I was a basketball player, I wasn't the best, but I was always the guy to like take the charge or do like do the little stuff that like pissed off. I had like three
Yep.
different players ask me to go to the parking lot to fight them because they hated me. So I just love that type of thing. And then my other guy, because of being knowing the history and stuff, is Bobby Orr. Like my uncle has that famous picture of him diving across the after the goal. Like
Yep.
it was so we had those stories all the time when we were kids. Like my dad's not the biggest hockey fan, but in the 70s it was that's
He was a
all I
god.
mean, it
Yeah.
was all Bruins. So
Absolute god in the region. And yeah, I mean, I just wasn't going to put Bobby Orr in mine because I never watched him play.
right. Yep.
But when you go back and you watch YouTube highlights of the guy, it's like he looks like a created player on
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like what you do in Madden, right? Where you just like max out a guy at everything. Like he was a defenseman and he moved like that on the ice.
yeah.
He was way, way ahead of his time.
Yep.
So it's really unfortunate that he ended up getting injured and not having a lengthy career because
Right.
when he was at his peak, I mean, there's guys that watch hockey and study hockey that say like peak Bobby Orr was better than Wayne Gretzky. Like that's not just like a Boston thing. Like there's like hockey historians that say that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's I invite anyone to just go look up YouTube highlights of Bobby Orr. You will not be disappointed. You don't even need to like hockey, and you will enjoy
It's
that.
up here somewhere.
Yep, I see the Bruins. What
But
is that?
yeah, we
Like Beatles pose,
yeah,
right?
the Abbey Road.
Yep.
My dad, I have so all these ones are the older or greatest of the teams, and then the Celtics one is nowadays because my dad took the Larry Bird, Bill Russell,
Oh,
Kevin
really?
McHale, that one, but that's all right. But yeah, so going into football, who's number one or couple in football outside of the Patriots?
Hmm. Man. I mean, again, it's kind of a lame answer. And he did play for the Patriots, but like Flutie for
Yeah,
me as a kid. I loved when he was playing for the Chargers, and when I was a really little kid on the Bills, my dad was at BC at the same time as Flutie, so he would always make a point to be like, I was in college with that guy. And
it's
again,
cool.
little guy, just like doing what he did on the football field was an absolute blast to watch. We talked about him earlier, Matt Ryan for me, Boston College fan. So whenever a guy goes to BC and then he doesn't end up playing for the Pats and then has like a great NFL career, those are kind of the guys that I end up rooting for. Like a Luke Kuechly down in
Oh yeah,
Carolina
yeah.
was an absolute pleasure to watch play football. So, um, kind of boring answers, but like those are
No,
kind of the guys that I really liked. I know this isn't like a popular name to say these days, but when I was a kid, I loved watching Brett Favre. I loved watching a guy that just you never knew what that guy was going to do at any given time. Sort of the gambler type of mentality. I really loved watching Brett Favre play football. So those are kind of my go to guys on that. I loved watching Warren Sapp as a kid.
yeah.
Um, I always go back to like when I was a kid. Who did I like outside of the Patriots? Because nowadays covering the Patriots, it's kind of just like all encompassing.
All
So it's
Patriots,
hard
yeah.
for me. Like I love watching Mahomes, but it's hard for me to say that he's like my favorite non-Patriot. But I love watching the guy play football. I love watching Lamar Jackson play football. I love watching
Yes.
Josh Allen play
I
football.
love Lamar Jackson.
Um, watching high level quarterback play is a joy regardless,
Yeah.
right? Unless it's a guy playing against your team or like a guy that's on your rival team. So like the Josh Allen thing's a little hard to stomach right now, but at the same time, his peak, his prime is not coinciding with the Patriots being competitive in any way. So like if the Patriots can actually turn things around and be a really good team over the next few years, and then there's going to be like these battles between Drake May and Josh Allen, I'll probably start to hate Josh Allen. I really don't hate Josh Allen right now. Like all the spankings he's given the Patriots, they kind of deserve, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, it's an interesting question. It's I mean, when you grow up watching Tom Brady, and I'm just going to transition us into the favorite Patriots. I mean, do I even need to discuss or explain why?
No.
It's Tom Brady. Like
He's
it's
the GOAT.
I'll actually so I got to actually meet Tom Brady and chat with him
Oh
um,
wow.
up at the Hall of Fame back in 2021 when I was doing the podcast with Morton. Um, because Morton played for the Saints in the 80s, it coincided with Archie Manning's career with the Saints. So in 2021, that was the year that Peyton Manning was being inducted into the Hall.
Oh yeah.
So we were lucky enough to go to Peyton Manning's after party after the induction through a
Cool.
connection through his dad. And I said to Morton, I was like, you got to introduce me to Brady. You have to. And so as Brady was leaving the party, Morton stopped him and we talked for like 7 minutes. And Morton talked for like six and a half of those 7 minutes. But the fact that like I got to talk with Brady, he actually gave me the time of day.
Yeah.
I told him how important he was to like my family and why I do what I do for a
Hmm.
career is because I grew up watching those teams and like I love sports because of those Patriot teams. It's just a fact. So like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing in my career if it weren't for those Patriot teams being amazing and him being who he is. So I made sure to tell him that, and he was actually really appreciative. And um, I'm sure he has conversations like that 7, 8, 50 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for him to actually make me in that moment feel like he was hearing that for the first time was really cool.
It's
And
cool.
so it's Tom Brady. It's I, I could talk for like an hour about my favorite Patriots because we had 20 years of dominance, right? Like I'll give you. I mean, I love Vince Wilfork. I love Rob Gronkowski. I love Julian Edelman. I love Teddy Bruschi. I love Ty Law. I love Lawyer Malloy. I love Willie McGinnis. The list goes on and on and on. I love James White. It's just we had it really good up here for a long
Yeah.
time, as you know. So it's hard to really whittle it down. But Brady is in an echelon all by
Oh
himself. And
yeah.
like I was one of those guys that when he went to the Bucks, they became my second team. I watched every Bucks game. They were in the NFC, didn't matter, right? Like, cool, let's go, let's get a Super Bowl. And like the Pats weren't good, so that 2020 Super Bowl, it was like as if I was a Bucks fan the way I was watching that game. And Gronk was on that team too. It was absolute
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah. He's really good. Um. So outside of Patriots, mine would be Barry Sanders, definitely. You
Okay,
talk
yeah.
about
So I was a little too young for Barry Sanders. Like he played while I was alive, but I didn't like understand it at that point.
right, right.
Like I was just too young to get it.
Well, I was a big like like watching highlights a lot when I was a kid. I didn't really because the games were on late, so like I didn't really stay up that late. But my dad and my mom would always like show me highlights. And you talk about like a create Bobby Orr, a creative player kind of thing. Barry Sanders, That dude,
Yeah.
like, there'd be
Yeah.
like 10 players on top of him, and he would pop out and go
So
do
there
it.
is an Amazon doc about Barry Sanders that came out a couple
Yeah, I
years
saw it.
ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was like truly good for a guy like me to watch, who I
Yep.
always knew how good Barry Sanders was, but that like really hammered home just how amazing of a football player he
Then
was.
to leave like after 10 years and just like
Crazy.
disappear. Like it was, yeah, it's a weird story, but I mean, he's healthy and not walking with a walker and stuff.
Yep.
So maybe he made the right decision.
Yeah, you
So,
look at a guy like Barry Sanders who's upright and seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's got his health. And then you see a guy like Earl Campbell who, and I he's a lot older than Barry Sanders, but and the game was different, but it's it's a clear difference of like this guy played until the bitter end and was putting his body at risk on every play, and he looks the way he looks, and
yeah.
Barry Sanders looks the way he looks.
Yep. Yeah, so that would be my outside the NFL, the Patriots. And Patriots, obviously, like you said,
Yeah, again, it's Brady.
Brady. I mean, you really can't argue that. How about baseball outside of the Red Sox?
Outside of the Red Sox, hmm, I really liked Cal Ripken as a kid.
Hmm.
I just thought that that was cool. And again, I know he played for the Orioles, but when you're at that age, it's just like if it wasn't a Yankee, like it was fine to love a guy in the Orioles. Everyone loved Cal Ripken Jr. Um, I'm a child of the steroid era, so like I have no problem saying Barry Bonds was an absolute just phenom and a joy to watch, and I was all in on the home run chase and all that stuff. Um, Ken Griffey Jr. obviously, yeah, I mean, grew up at the perfect age for that. Even him on the Reds, like after he had his amazing Mariners run, like when he was healthy, just watching him play was always just I loved it. Um, I really liked Randy Johnson outside of his Yankee years. Watching Randy Johnson play was awesome. Um, those
Talk about
Braves
intimidating.
teams, oh yeah, dude, it just lefty, huge. I mean, how could you not? Again, a guy that looked like he was built on a computer. Um, I liked those Braves teams. The Glavin, Maddox, Smoltz, Chipper, Andrew, like all those guys. Javi Lopez, like I really liked those Braves teams in the NL when we were kids. I liked A Rod until he was on the Yankees. How could you not? He could do everything. I loved Pudge Rodriguez. Dontrell Willis is a guy that I loved on the Marlins. That high kick. Um, so there's a ton of guys. I really liked Rafi Palmeiro. He's one guy that the steroid thing kind of annoyed me because just the way he was like, I never did steroid, and then it's like he came out looking worse than everyone in that whole thing.
Yeah, that was bad.
But as a kid, I loved Rafi Palmeiro. Just a dude with a mustache who could mash. Loved it. So those are some names. I know I just rambled a little bit, but there's
Don't
a
worry about it.
yeah. When it's
Mm.
non Red Sox, just like a bunch of guys jump out. I really like Clayton Kershaw as
Yeah,
like a guy that's still playing. Um, when I did the LA program, it coincided with the Dodgers kind of like the first good team they had in this like decade plus run of them being good again. And I say good again because they weren't that good for
right.
a long time leading up to 2013. That was the first year Yasiel Puig was on the team, who was a guy that I really liked. So it was kind of like Puig mania. Hanley Ramirez was on that team. So I was out in LA like when they were going on that playoff run. So I watched all those games. I really liked Kenley Jansen um, as a closer for them. So the Dodgers always were kind of like a secondary team for me after living in LA. Um, so it's I don't mind seeing them win a bunch of World Series here. I'm obviously happy for Mookie, a guy that should have never left Boston.
Dumbest trade
Um,
ever.
yeah. So, and I know we'll probably get to the Red Sox here in a second. Mookie very high on that list for me.
Yeah, mine would be, you mentioned Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson was number one for me. He just 105 mile per hour fastball, like, yeah,
Amazing.
unbelievable.
Oh, you know who's another one that just popped up, and I should have mentioned him because I loved him. Vlad Guerrero,
Oh
just
yeah,
huge dude in the outfield, cannon arm, could hit any ball, like hitting home runs on balls that hit the dirt, like just
swung at anything.
yeah, loved him. Played with no gloves, like just a beast.
Yes, I like him a lot too. And then my batter or fielder, whatever you want to say, is Ichiro. I loved Ichiro.
Yeah, loved Ichiro. Loved
He,
Ichiro.
I've never seen anyone. Me and my dad were actually just talking about this. Never seen anyone the way he stands at the plate, where he's already running to first, basically. Like I love, I don't know, and I always played
Yeah, no, loved
like
him.
MLB the Show or whatever it was called, and if you had Ichiro, you would get in a base hit like every time.
Absolutely. He was a cheat code for sure.
Yeah. So what about Red Sox other than Mookie? You said.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Mookie Ortiz is my favorite Red Sox of all
Yeah.
time. Like I mentioned, that 2013 team was just special for me. Like I grew up in the region. We had '04, we had '07, but 13 was different. Coming off that marathon bombing, I was in the city, going to school, interning at EEI that whole summer for that Red Sox season. I was at the This Is Our effing City game with
Yeah.
my dad, just X amount of days after the bombing. So like that's a moment that I'll never forget. And so the fact that he was able to just have the postseason that he had, it's unbelievable. I don't think it's discussed enough
No.
how locked in that guy was in 2013. And the fact that the Cardinals, it took them until game 6 to stop pitching to him, it's malpractice. And like
Yeah.
they should check Mike Matheny's bank accounts to make sure that he didn't have money on the Red Sox to win the World Series with how insane it was that they were still pitching to Ortiz that late into that series. Um, so yeah, it's just I was out in LA when they won it, and I was at Sonny McLean's, which is the big Boston bar out in Santa Monica. So I was just surrounded by a bunch of people who were also away from Boston watching this amazing moment. So like the community feel of like when that happened was really cool. And watching all those playoff games with my friends that had just moved out to LA after graduating, um, who were all Boston fans, and like meeting up in the middle of the day for those because 3 hours behind, right? So it was just like it was just an awesome time. So that Ortiz is number one for me with the bullet. Um, I love Pedro as well. Growing up in this area, how can you not love Pedro Martinez for how dominant he was? 99 All Star game. Come on, it's Pedro. So those are the two. Obviously, I was a child of the Boston region in the Nomar era. So Nomar, another guy, Manny. Um, those are the ones that for me are really above the rest. And then of the when I got older, Mookie was that guy, and it just sucks that he's not here. We don't need to get into a whole thing about Mookie, but um, he just did everything. He was the perfect team player, and great that he won an MVP and got a World Series here because then at least we get to have that as
Right. Right.
Boston fans as he now goes and has his you know second Hall of Fame career with the Dodgers. We got to have a mini Hall of Fame career here in Boston before he went to play his prime out in LA.
Yeah. I mean, you already said it. Big Poppy is number one. It's there's no
Yeah,
question. I mean, just what he did for the city, and I mean, even outside of baseball, he was amazing for the city, and so was Pedro. Pedro was really good for the city too. But yeah, him and was it Kevin Millar that did the Cowboy Up and all that stuff?
yeah,
Yeah,
Millar, yeah, he
yeah,
was fun.
Kevin Millar.
Yep.
Just because we talk about like Devers not being a locker room guy and all that stuff, you need that guy to like. I feel like what's his name? The oh my god, I'm blanking on names now. But yeah, Kevin Millar was that guy that like even if he wasn't playing well, you kept him on your team because
Mhm.
he kept everybody laughing and happy and all that stuff. And I don't know, I loved him and I loved Dave Ortiz. Definitely was the one and two.
The best.
Um, what about Cornette is who I was thinking of. I
Oh,
think Cornette
Cornette.
was that for the Celtics in
Sure.
2024. Even though he was really good, but I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was the guy like just I mean, watching his interviews were so funny and I don't know.
Definitely.
But
Definitely an important locker room guy for sure.
yeah, getting into basketball finally. Who's your guys outside of the Celtics?
So, basketball, the one that immediately jumps out to me is Dirk. I just
Okay.
loved
Yeah.
Dirk as a kid. And then for the run that he had in 2011 to beat that Miami team, who I just absolutely despised, already hated LeBron. And then I hated the idea that they came together the way they did, just hated it. So, and that 2011 Heat team knocked the Celtics out of the playoffs. So for the Mavs to do what they did and JJ Barea like getting in LeBron's head is incredible. But Dirk, I mean, huge German guy, weird shot, just
Shot
carried
man.
that team to a title. I probably, I mean, in what was it, 06 or 07 when they got upset by the Warriors in the first
Mhm.
round? Like that was the Dirk team that probably should have won a title. They lost in the finals to the Heat in 06, right? So like that was prime Dirk, and he never got it done. 2011 was definitely like hanging on by a thread, Dirk, and he just put the team on his back. So for me, for that run alone, and he's just hilarious. Like as a guy,
Yeah.
I love Dirk Nowitzki. So that's number one. I like don't even have to think twice about it. Favorite non-Celtic of all time. And then, given my age, grew up with the Spurs being who they were. So how can you
Okay.
not love Tim Duncan? And I loved Manu Ginobili too. Like those two guys were just if you love basketball, you couldn't not love those Spurs teams. And I know people are like, oh, they're boring and he never says anything. But like if you actually like basketball and you watch those teams play, they were incredibly fun to watch play basketball. So um, loved them. I know that we're not supposed to say that we like Lakers, but you couldn't be a child of the 90s and not love Shaq. And
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah, yeah.
I was so pumped when Shaq was on the Celtics for that season. Like I was so happy cuz
Then he got
all my
shot in the
favorite
leg.
yeah, right. But like, you have Pearson Garnett and like the end of that window and then you just add Shaq in there. And then like the first half of that year, I think people forget like he was good.
Yeah.
He was good that year. And then they were crazy to trade Perk, thinking that they could rely on Shaq for the
Yeah.
rest of that year. And it came to a screeching halt. So, I don't think they probably ever really believed that Shaq was going to be able to make a deep playoff run. But like, as a fan from the outside looking in, it was like, okay, you traded Perk after he came back from injury. I guess that means you think that Shaq can be the guy. And then Shaq goes out and it wasn't. But like, so I loved, I mean, Shaq is Shaq, right? Like, come on. Um, and then like, I was definitely too young to like appreciate Jordan in the 90s. But again, you couldn't be alive while Michael Jordan was playing basketball and not be obsessed with Jordan, right? Like as a kid, like you have all the t-shirts, you see Space Jam, when
Yeah.
he was on the Wizards, I loved it. Um, there's a lot of non-Celtics that I could name. I loved Gilbert Arenas. He just jumped to mind
Agent
as a
Zero. What was it?
non
Agent Zero or something?
Agent Zero. Yep,
Yeah.
those teams were fun. Um, I loved Kevin Durant until he went to the Warriors. Loved him. Like at Texas, I wanted the Celtics to draft him so
Yeah.
badly. Um, Steph Curry, absolutely love him. Even though he beat the Celtics in the finals, still love the guy, loved him until that. So there's a lot. There's a lot for
Yeah.
basketball for sure.
Well, mine, I'm a little older than you, so I'm 39. So I
Okay.
would,
So you were
mine
you
would,
were really alive in the
yeah,
Jordan
mine,
era then.
but mine wouldn't be Jordan. So I like, obviously Jordan's amazing. Don't get me wrong. But as a Celtics fan, I always got annoyed that people put him as the greatest of all time when I mean, we don't have to argue about it or anything, but me personally, Bill Russell is the greatest of all time because what do you go for? You go for championships, and he won 11 and 13 seasons and eight
Yep.
in a row at one point. Like, I get Jordan, obviously, Jordan's probably the greatest athlete in basketball history or whatever, um, but yeah, he's one of them. But Shaq was definitely one of them. Just like we were talking about, I was just talking about like outside of basketball too. Shaq does everything for everyone. Like he's so into giving, and I love that. I think he's such a good person. And then my guy was Kobe. Kobe was just like when he got that, they call it like the Mamba face or whatever. When he got that
Mamba
face on,
mentality.
you
Yep.
you knew like, uh-oh, like you're not winning this game.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of crazy, and that's why I
Yeah, I
like.
grow up a Celtics fan, so it's hard to love a Laker. Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Shaq was kind of an outlier, but Kobe was not. Like I hated Kobe,
Oh,
and
I hated
obviously,
Kobe
he
too, but
passed, but he was. I mean, he was electric, and the stories that you hear about Kobe as a competitor are unmatched. But it's hard for me to even like put that hate aside, even with him, being gone tragically. Like when it comes to the basketball side of it, I still just am like, nah, I hate Kobe.
yeah.
I just can't can't bring myself to it.
Well, that's how I feel about LeBron. LeBron, I
No, yeah, no, don't even.
not nothing
Nope,
will make me like LeBron. I'm
not a
sorry,
part of the
but
conversation for me.
yeah.
Hate him.
So, but yeah, Kobe was the guy, and that's why I like Tatum looking up to him because Tatum, he, I want him to be more Kobe, if you get what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like more aggressive, more
Mm-hmm.
like Kobe, like you said, Mamba mindset, like Mamba mentality, like I'm gonna win this game, like that, and it had no, there was no question in his mind, and he went out and did it. Like yes, he had Shaq and stuff, but even after that, what did he have? Pau Gasol. I mean, Pau Gasol was good, but
Pau
Kobe
Gasol is
carried that
very
team.
good. Yeah, no, but
But
Kobe was the best player on those
yeah,
teams, definitely. Yeah.
but and then outside of that, an outlier for me was Derrick Rose when he was
Yeah,
on Chicago being the MVP and stuff. It upsets me so much that he got hurt so much, and
yeah. It's a
because
bummer.
he looked like he was going to be that next
Yeah,
guy.
that one really hurts.
Yeah.
Couple more that jumped out to me. As a kid, I liked those Sacramento teams a lot.
Oh
So
yeah.
like C-Web, Peja, Mike Bibby, like those Kings teams I
B.
really liked.
Yes.
And then a guy that wasn't a part of those, like he was on the Kings, but not a part of like the ones that went on a run, but like White Chocolate, Jason Williams,
Yeah.
loved him in his prime.
Dude, the
And
back.
you see his highlights all over the place still now. And then speaking of highlights, Allen Iverson, as a
Oh
kid, you
yeah.
couldn't not love Allen Iverson.
How did I forget about him? Yeah,
Yeah,
AI.
loved him.
Just tiny, tiny dude. Just
Yeah.
didn't care. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and him and Shaq are actually co-workers now. They own Reebok or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah. So they're trying to bring back Reebok basketball. But yeah, who would your? I know who my Celtics are. So who would your Celtics be?
I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's if you're around our age, it's impossible to not say Paul Pierce and Kevin
Mhm.
Garnett. Like those, I mean, Pierce for me is number one, just given what I grew up with, and I just think he has become, because of who he is in the media, just saying wild stuff. He has become so underrated for how much of a competitor that guy was, how clutch he was. Amazing defensive player, great 3-point shooter, way before it was in vogue to be a 3-point shooter. Like if he played now, he would have extended his career, I think, um, because of just how good of a shooter he was. So Pierce winning that championship in '08 and having the playoff runs that he had post '08, absolutely love the guy. Even when he had that game winner when he was on Washington, did you call bank? I called game. One of the great post game moments of all time. I love Paul Pierce, favorite NBA player of all time. Kevin Garnett changed Boston basketball forever. I know he was only here, 6 years, something like
Yep.
that, but he could have been here 3 years and they should have retired his number. So no gripes with me with retiring that guy's number with the impact that he had. Electric. And if he had never played for the Celtics, he would have been right behind Dirk for me as a favorite non-Celtic of all time. One of those guys that just you watch the guy is just an electric factory. So those two, and it's like a very far drop before the next one for me. I loved Isaiah Thomas. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Uh, I personally really liked Glenn Davis because I played very similar to him. So Big Baby, being a role player on those championship teams, was a guy that I definitely related to. Hasn't really had a great post playing career, I'd say, but in the moment loved him. But like all the guys on those championship, like I loved Rondo in the moment. I loved Perk in the moment. Again, a guy that like people don't like anymore because he says crazy things. I loved Eddie House. I loved Scal. I loved James Posey on the 1 year he was here. Um, Tony Allen. Like I loved that '08 team. It's my favorite Boston team ever by far. Is the '08 Celtics. Boston. I mean, basketball is my favorite sport. So for that team, I was I don't know, 16 years old when they won the championship. It was just the perfect age for me. And then Antoine Walker, when we were kids, just him and Pierce, the 1-2 punch. Absolutely loved it. And like, look, I know that I cover the team and I'm a little older now, so it's different. But like Tatum and Brown are way up there for me.
Yeah.
We've gone through battles with these guys and seen them, you know, go from what they were, having those late playoff exits early in their career, like way ahead of schedule, and taking those lumps and battle scars and raising the expectations so high for them as young players. So for them to win that championship in 2024, it's like, oh, they finally did it. It's like, really, this is kind of on schedule. It's not like a finally, like they're finally at the age where they should be winning championships. Everything
Fine.
before was kind of gravy.
Mm-hmm.
So they're way up there for me, even, because it's different when you're a kid. You have an affection for athletes in a way that's different than when you get older.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like I still love Tatum and Brown as players and respect the hell out of them, but it's just different, right? Like Tatum is never going to be like what Paul Pierce was for me.
Right, right. Yep. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Paul obviously is one of the top for me. My top, see, I'm in a weird place because my grandfather, my whole mom's side of the family, and my dad and my grandfather all love Celtics. So Celtics are number one for me. I was actually born June 8th, 1986, which is the day they won their 16th championship. My mom
That's
had me
cool.
in her hand watching them win.
Oh my
So
god.
like
They
I
should
was
have named you
born,
Larry or something.
yeah, yeah. So I was like born into it. And
That's cool.
actually I love the '08 team too because tons of people were like, "Oh, it's your fault that they haven't won in however many years
You're the
because you're,
curse.
yeah." So when they won in '08, I was very happy. But
That's funny.
they made me watch like old games too, like go back and watch Bird, go back and watch Bill Russell. And I caught Bird on his tail end, but he was still unreal. Like watching him play, like I remember there's a story of him playing lefty because he was bored. Like, and he also would go in the '90s. He would go on the sideline when he's out of the game, and like they would have to work his back like crazy, and because his back was just on fire, and then he would go in the game and score 30 something points or whatever. So he was amazing. But Bill Russell's my number one because, like I said before, he's not only did he win 11 titles, but the stuff that I keep harping on this, but the stuff that he's done outside of basketball with the civil rights stuff that he was part of and just the man he was, like, it's unreal. I mean, Jalen Brown looks up to him. He loves Bill Russell. A bunch of guys look up to him. So it would be him, Pierce, Bird. And you were talking about Pierce's competitiveness. I urge people to go watch. I forget what game it was, but it was in the playoffs against the Pacers when he was going against Jermaine O'Neal, and he was telling Jermaine O'Neal where he was going to go
It's actually
and
Al
nail.
Harrington. Yeah,
Oh,
Al
Al
Harrington.
Harrington. Sorry, Al
Yeah,
Harrington. Yes, and he was telling him where he was going to go and made the shot. Like that was
legendary.
insane.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah, so that
I'm with you on the Russell stuff. Um, like I said before, it's tough for me to when we're going like my favorite athletes, it's tough for me to
yeah,
put them in there just because I didn't watch them play. But I have immense respect for all of the classic Celtics, Bird, Russell, Havlicek, Kuzi, especially, watching the Celtic City doc this past
yeah,
spring, which if you
so
love the
good.
Celtics and you love Boston sports, highly recommend it. I know it's like 9 episodes. It's a lot, but it's worth it.
It was so good.
You just, I mean, I'm a Boston sports savant, and I learned things that I had no idea about. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Um, but yeah, I mean, nothing more to add when it comes to the Russell thing. You nailed it. Like icon. There will never be another Bill Russell, either on the court or off the court. He's just singular, totally singular athlete. Um, it's a shame that he's no longer with us. It's a shame that he was in a place mentally where he didn't feel like Boston could be a home for him
Yeah,
after playing, and that he was away from the organization for as long as he was. Um, we're very lucky that we were able to get the Garnett Russell connection and have that, and the fact that there's all the cool like behind the scenes footage of it, like Russell interviewing KG and like their conversations and stuff. Like that's the type of stuff that if you're a sports fan, you just want to eat that up. And especially as a Celtics fan, like that's just like the best. So um the fact that the '08 team happened, I was like so happy for Russell that he like got to be a part of that. Like my computer background on my work laptop is the image of the team, the '08 team celebrating on the floor, like the team picture they took with the O'Brien trophy and the MVP trophy. And Russell's like in that team picture wearing a championship hat. And like I always loved that he was like spiritually almost a part of that team because Garnett made sure of it. Like when Garnett got traded here, he made it such a point to be like, I want you to teach me everything about what it is to be a champion, and then enacted it in year one. It's just like the '08 team, I think because of Pierce and Garnett in their post playing careers, having the podcast and always saying crazy stuff. And then Doc kind of having all of his playoff follies post '08. It's underrated how awesome that '08 team was. Like the whole narrative of it all, being the second worst team in the NBA the year before, putting it all together and winning in year one against the Lakers. It's just like you can't write
yeah, it was awesome. I might have shed a tear or two that day.
that. Same.
uh, yeah, that was awesome. Well, I've taken a lot of your time. I apologize,
Yeah, no, we
but
went rolling for a long time there,
but
man.
we can I mean, I could talk sports forever, and I know you could. That's your job. But tell the people where they can find you on socials or any plugs that you have or any of that.
Yeah. So you can follow me on social media anywhere at your boy TC Fresh, kind of a goofy handle. YABOITC Fresh. And if you search Tom Carroll, two R's, two L's, or Tommy Freeze Pops, you search any of those three things, you'll find me. There's stories to explain both that handle and that nickname. We can get into those on different days. But yeah,
Have him
anywhere
back
you have
on and
social
explain.
media, search those things and you'll find me. Yeah, exactly. So
All
yeah,
right,
find me
cool.
there.
And for me, and he works on WEI too. So check out that radio station. They're great. I think my dad somehow still listens to them here in New Orleans. I don't know how, but
The Odyssey app, AUDACY.
oh, is
Download
that
the
why?
Odyssey app and you can listen to WEI. Exactly.
Yeah, that must be it. Because I'm like, how are you listening to that? But yeah, it's cool. Anyway, so for me, I think I'm Bobbo's World everywhere, but check out obviously on this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff. And then check out my nonprofit, Sweet Sadie. So it's SWEETSADIE.org and donate today and help out everybody in need. And then, yeah, so thanks for being on. I really appreciate your time. We could do this for plenty more hours, and I'll have to have you back on maybe when the Red Sox make the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, I'd say probably after football season would be best for me. It's about to be my very crazy time of year. But yeah, would love to check back in and congrats on the pod and um, you know
Thank you.
the work you're doing raising money. That's so admirable. So good luck with everything along the way.
Appreciate that. All right, everybody, have a good day. See you later. Peace.